Welcome, guys. It's the Gridiron Gurus. My name's Keith. I'm joined by Jesse. It's presented by Fanmosphere, and we posted a list last night onto Facebook, Twitter, and it got a lot more response than what we originally anticipated. Especially this morning, it's really kind of blown up. And so we're just going to kind of go through the list, talk about some of the guys, and if anybody actually joins us, we'd love to hear what you think about it. If you're just joining us or watching this on replay, guys, make sure you leave the video a like, subscribe, leave a comment, maybe a coach that we may have left off, or just any kind of news or note that you might think that we didn't talk about.
Let us know which coach we left off.
They already really have. But I guess I'll let you go ahead and take off with I guess we'll start at 1, or if you want to start at 20, we can go from 20 up.
Actually, I want to talk about, we did a top 20 list. We each did our own list with Ryan and Adrian on their Sportsaholic podcast back probably a couple months ago.
I think so, yeah.
And our lists were comparable, but they were different.
They were especially very different from 11 through 20. Now, when you got into the top 10, we started seeing a lot of similarities. I think me and you and Ryan, I believe, had Mark Richt at 11.
Right.
So that was one that we kind of agreed on as far as just kind of a general consensus. There was one coach I know that we both left off of our lists, and I think either Ryan or Adrian had him on theirs. Brian Kelly, but I was actually talking about Kyle Whittingham.
Oh, Kyle Whittingham. Yeah, Adrian had Kyle Whittingham, which is deserving. He's deserving. Brian Kelly, I don't know how we missed out. We forgot Brian Kelly. I have no idea how I missed Brian Kelly.
I don't either. You and I think we both did. I can't remember now exactly who all I had.
I think we did. I think we both
probably
missed him.
It was one of those guys, him and Kyle Whittingham, both. We just both. I don't know how we missed Brian Kelly with his time at Oregon and is it Notre Dame? Is that right?
Notre Dame, yeah. Notre Dame. No,
or that Chip.
Chip Kelly.
That's who I'm getting.
Wrong Kelly. But no, Brian Kelly was at Cincinnati.
Right.
Where was he at before? Was he at Central Michigan?
Central Michigan, I believe so.
I think he was.
So I believe that's who Butch Jones kind of got his start with.
He followed in both places, I think.
I believe so.
But he was at Cincinnati, and then he went to Notre Dame.
Right.
But, yeah, he definitely is a top 20. And the list that we ended up, I'll read off the list. I think our top 10 is solid. I think the top 10 list is solid. The top 10 is from 10 through 1. Top 10 is Mack Brown at 10, Jim Tressel at 9, Jimbo Fisher at 8, Les Miles at 7, Chris Peterson at 6, Pete Carroll at 5, Bob Stoops at 4, Dabo Swinney at 3, Urban Meyer at 2, and Nick Saban at 1. And if you could, I mean, I could listen to an argument between 5 through 10 on other coaches, but if you try telling me something different than the order of 1 through 3 of Saban, Meyer, Dabo,
right,
you'd be better off talking to a wall because I'm not going to listen to it.
Well, I mean, I can understand some people thinking Dabo should be ahead of Urban Meyer just because of recent success. But, this is the past 20 years, and you got to consider what he did at Florida.
But, yeah, he also won a championship at 2 different programs. So.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Saban did.
And, LSU, yeah. He won
it
in 01 or 02.
I think it was 03 was when I think the year he won that.
It was somewhere in that time frame. You're right.
But yeah, I mean, anything besides, and if you do put Dabo at 2, whatever. I think Urban's got the
nod.
But if those aren't the 3 names though,
right?
Then
I think number 1 is unanimous. It's Nick Saban, and then you can kind of flip flop 2 and 3, and you're going to get the Clemson faithful that say Dabo Swinney should be. And then you're going to get the Urban Meyer, the Ohio States, and the Florida guys that are saying, no, Urban Meyer should be 2. And I understand both arguments. For me, it's Urban Meyer at 2. But
if you remember, though, we had Clemson Tom on probably about a month ago now, or a little over a month ago now. And he even said Urban Meyer at 2. Because
he said he would listen to the argument, and he could understand it, yeah.
And so, anyways, that top 3, I think, is where it should be. I don't think there's any other name you could put in the top 3.
Right.
Bob Stoops, I think, is a better fit for than Pete Carroll just because of a longer tenure, more consistent success than Pete Carroll. Now, if
Right.
Pete Carroll sticks around at USC and they keep going,
Right.
then
Well, they wasn't going
obviously-
to.
No, they weren't going to. But
Just because
obviously,
of sanctions that he brought on the
if it's a
program.
big if, but if then Pete Carroll, then he gets the nod.
Right, but he didn't. He left in 2009.
I think that's right, somewhere around there.
Well, because I think Kiffin came to Tennessee in 2009, and then in 2010,
You're right.
2010 is whenever Pete Carroll made the jump to Seattle,
Kiffin left
and then
in the
Kiffin
middle
went
of
to
the night.
USC. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, let's not go into that.
But anyways, I mean,
So-
I think you're right. Bob Stoops at 4 is reasonable.
Chris Peterson at 6. Chris Peterson, that man is a genius, and we talked about this before. I so wish that dude could have got a championship
Right.
before he retired. First of all, he should still be coaching. He's way too young to not be coaching.
Yeah, I think so too. Which I mean, he might be dealing with health issues.
I
don't know
think
he
it
is,
was health related, just family and health related.
I can
But-
understand
and I
that.
understand that. But the job he did at Boise State, he put Boise State, on the map.
right.
And then the job he did, he continued that job or a successful job at Washington.
Right.
And with that, I'll be honest, Chris Peterson for me gets, regardless of everything else he's done, the win over Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl.
Right.
That to me,
And it was 2006 or 2007.
7 I think was
Right.
2007. Yeah, that to me was that's enough to put him
Right.
put him
On
in
the
top
list.
10,
Right.
barring everything else.
Right.
I mean, it don't matter.
The only argument that I could see for Miles and Jimbo Fisher is because of the national
Championship.
The national championship.
Yeah, I get that. Of course, you could say the argument there with Les Miles. Now, not knocking the fact that he's a top 10 coach, he is.
Right.
But you could say that the argument there for Les Miles is that he did it with Saban's players in 2000. It was 2007. It was 4 years removed from.
I don't
Saban.
think it was. He may have been banking off of Saban's success that he had at LSU and kind of
Right.
continued that, but he also grew and won a championship.
Well, and the argument I have to that argument is that he took him back again in 11.
Right. Absolutely.
2011, he made the national championship. Now, granted, he lost to Saban.
Right.
But that team that they had with Tyrann Mathieu.
Was Claiborne on
I was
that
about to say, I think Claiborne was on that team.
Right.
That team was
And
really
if I'm
good.
not mistaken, they may have had a younger Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry on that team as well.
I think so.
And I think there was a running back that went pro as well that was on that team.
Yeah.
I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head. I think it had
That was
Zach-
too early for Leonard Fournette, wasn't it? Or was it? I can't remember if he was after that time.
I think he was after that time. I
I
think
think
that,
so.
I can't remember the running back's name now. I think they had Zach Mettenberger. I think he was
Zach
on the
Mettenberger. He was, and Zach Mettenberger was a good quarterback. Got drafted by the Titans.
Yes.
And I actually liked that guy. I thought he was a talented quarterback.
I think he had issues with his knees though.
He did. Yeah, he had injury problems.
Right.
But he was talented. That was a good team, and
Absolutely.
those are all Les Miles players.
Right.
And
100% those are his
then
players.
we talked about it once before. I think in the original top 20 list that we did with Adrian and Ryan, we talked about how Les Miles continued to compete
Mm-hmm.
in what I feel like was probably one of the most competitive times that the SEC West has had.
Right.
I mean, the SEC West has always been, the toughest side of the conference. Well,
Yeah.
as of late, and
I would argue since
2000, actually, I guess since early to mid 2000s.
right. I was thinking like
2006,
06, 07
Florida had a run there, but
with Urban Meyer.
yeah, but that was it.
Right.
And the West has been the better side since then.
Absolutely.
But that at that time you had around the time when Les Miles was doing this, you have Dan Mullen at Mississippi State.
right.
You have Hugh Freeze at
Ole Miss. Right.
You have Gus Malzahn at Auburn.
Mm-hmm.
Saban still at Bama.
Right.
There was a short stint there where Petrino was at Arkansas.
Oh,
Arkansas
yeah.
was talented. 2011, Arkansas was a good football team.
They were. I'm not saying they wasn't a good football team. I just when you talk about Petrino, you just
No.
talk about all the other stuff that he brought.
Yeah, he had some
into it.
baggage, but
Massive baggage.
But I mean, you think about that team he had though with Ryan Mallett. The
Mhm.
team was talented,
Very talented.
very talented. So for him to do that, that was I think that's impressive.
Yeah.
Jimbo had was it a 2 or 3 year span there where he went to 2 or 3 seasons. He had that long winning streak.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what the streak was now. It was like 20-something games, wasn't it?
It was something like that.
Something like that. And, I'm a fan of Jimbo. I like Jimbo Fisher.
Right.
But I don't think you're beating Nick Saban.
I don't either.
But more power to you. I wish you luck.
I wish
Jim
somebody
Tressel.
would.
I ain't gonna lie. If there's an argument to be had, I will listen to anybody's argument about Jim Tressel. Honestly,
I
who
see him
knows?
as high as 6.
Yeah, I could bump him up. Jim Tressel has an argument.
Mm-hmm.
Jim Tressel.
I think you can almost put Tressel at 6, and then you'd either bump just everybody down or Chris Peterson and Jim Tressel flip, and then I would be okay with that.
I would be okay with that. I ain't gonna lie. I would be okay with that.
Right.
Jim Tressel. First of all, we talked about this too, and I think somebody mentioned it on a group I was looking at. They're talking about Michigan, Ohio State, and things, and Ohio State was not.
Oh no, they were not very
they
good.
Were not. No, they were not running that rivalry with Michigan. No. It was the opposite. Michigan owned that rivalry.
Right.
Matter of fact, last time I looked this up just the other night. I'm going to try to quote this off the top of my head. And forgive me if I miss it by a number or two, but I think the all-time record was like 56-33, Michigan over Ohio State,
right,
when Tressel took the job, and now it's at like 56-54 or 56-52,
right,
something like that.
That's crazy.
Or I'm sorry, I think it's 58-54 maybe, because they've won 2. They've won 2 since then.
Right.
And I think that's right. It may be 66. I can't remember. I just know it was.
Close.
Yeah, it was close. But anyways, my point is they've only won twice since he got hired in 2001.
Right.
And Ohio State has completely closed the gap on the rivalry.
Right.
Michigan State's still leading
well,
all time because
they got the higher right with Tressel. You're right. They got the higher right with Tressel, but they also got the higher right with Urban Meyer. And they also got the right hire with Ryan Day.
Yeah, they did. And I ain't gonna lie, I was kind of a little overly critical of Ryan Day at first. I thought, that was a cop out,
right?
To promote a guy from within. You just didn't want to go through the process,
right?
But Ryan Day's been a good hire.
Absolutely. I think he's been a great hire for him.
Mack Brown at 10. If anybody wants to argue Mack Brown at 10, buddy, no. Mack Brown's a top 10 coach. Now, if you want to argue he should be higher, I'll listen. But if you want to argue he should drop, I'm not listening to that.
I would listen to an argument about Rick at 10 and Brown at 11. I could hear the argument. I'm not saying I would agree. I'm saying if you was to come to me and say I think that they should flop. Okay, where's your proof? If you tell me, if you say Brian Kelly over Brown, no, we're not having a discussion because that's not relatable or whatever. But with Mark Richt, I think that he would have a chance. The only argument I can see Brown having over Richt is the national championship.
Yeah, well, I mean, Brown's been to 2, 1-1.
Right. So I always forget about the one in, what was it, 2011, 2012, when it was Colt McCoy.
That was 2009 against Alabama. Yeah, 2009 against Alabama. It's actually the first Bama title that Saban had.
Yeah.
And
you're right.
Again, and I think we talked about. Did we talk about that game not long ago?
It was on
because it was our
one of our 5 and 5s.
Yeah,
I think it was actually last week.
Maybe last week. I don't know, but we talked.
So I think it was your number 3.
I think it was something like that. Colt McCoy got hurt. Otherwise, that game, according to Austin, would have been different.
I actually agree with Austin on that. I actually agree that game. I don't know let Alabama win or Texas wins. But I could hear the argument that they would. Yeah, I could see them having at least a chance.
Right.
A Vince Young chance to win.
Yeah, a Vince Young chance.
What I mean by that is it's a last second.
Last second, yeah,
right?
I got you.
Last second, go ahead touchdown.
Yeah, that's pretty funny that you use that Vince Young chance. I like that.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that I would. I'll be honest. I kind of would listen more to Brian Kelly over Mack Brown just because of the championship appearances. Because
how many has Kelly been to?
Brian Kelly, well, he's been to 1, but he's made the college football playoff twice.
Okay, I was thinking
granted,
about.
He's lost all 3 of them. And that one loss,
Yeah.
if you remember, I think it was 11 or 12. No, it was 12. He played Alabama.
Oh, was that the Montateo year?
Yes, it was. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was Mantateo. And I think it was like 42-14 or something. Like, it was bad.
It was an absolute beatdown.
It was bad. Yeah,
It was an absolute beatdown.
I think who was that running back that year? I think it was Eddie Lacy, maybe, for Alabama that year.
They had Lacey, and then they had a complimentary back to him. I think Henry may have been on that team too.
I think.
Wasn't Kenyon Drake? It was. Oh, what was that running back's name? But anyways, it was Lacey.
Yeah.
Was not
I think Lacy was the running
Mark
back.
Ingram. Was Mark Ingram on that team?
No, he was. I don't think so. I think he was out by that point. Because Mark Ingram came before Lacy.
Okay.
I'm not sure who that was. I can't remember myself.
But it seems
you
like
know,
there was a
it
very
could have
good.
been Kenyon Drake. It might be Kenyon Drake.
Okay, well, you're doing that. I'm gonna look that up. That would have been what, the 2012
Or
roster?
was it?
Was it the 2012 roster?
Yeah. Come. T.J. Yeldon. Was it T.J. Yeldon? Because he was on that team.
Possibly.
I think it was T.J. Yeldon.
Possibly.
But gosh, you could good grief. We could do a top 10 list on just Alabama running backs.
Right.
Just during the Saban era. But yeah. I don't know. Brian Kelly does have a little bit of an argument there.
I can see it.
I could see it.
I mean, but for me, it's Mac Brown. But I guess it's more just of a a personal.
Right. Frank Beamer at 13, and that I'm gonna read this off.
Actually, we was both right.
We were talking.
It was Eddie Lacy, then T.J. Yeldon, and then Kenyon Drake.
Oh, all
So
right.
it was.
That's
We
crazy.
was both right,
In one backfield,
and then they had A.J. McCarron at quarterback.
and that's not even the best backfield they've had. If you
No.
think about that,
No, it's not.
they had a backfield one time with Mark Ingram, Trent Richardson, Eddie Lacy. Then they had a backfield with Derrick Henry, one of the Harrises.
I think Alvin Kamara was on that same team.
He may have been, yeah, he may have
was a
been
young
before he
guy.
transferred.
Right.
But yeah, that's unbelievable. But at 13, is it 13? Yeah, 13. We have Frank Beamer sitting there, and
I'll
I
let you
could
make the
hear-
case for Frank Beamer.
here's my thing, because we talked about it before the show.
Mhm.
Could see Frank Beamer. People having an argument. Frank Beamer, from 2004 to 2011, never had less than 10 wins.
Right.
And if you can even go back further, from 99 to 2011, he only had 2 seasons
Right.
with fewer than 10 wins. He had 8-4 and an 8-5.
Right.
In his entire career, at Virginia Tech, he was at Virginia Tech for a very long time, but from 93 until he retired in 2015, he never missed a bowl game.
Right.
Never missed a bowl game. You can count up all the years that he was ranked in the top 25. From 2004 to 2011, he was ranked in the top 25 every single year. There were 4 of those years that he was ranked in the top 10.
Right.
Again, you can go back further. You go from 95 to 2011. There were only 2 seasons where he wasn't ranked in the top 25.
Right.
He's got a case.
He's got a case.
He played in a national championship. That was with Vince Young, and
Mhm.
I think it was 99 or 2000. It was 99. And they had 11-0 season, lost
Right.
in the national championship to
Right.
maybe Florida State.
Florida State, which
I
would have
think.
been, was it Winky? Is that the year of Winky? Or was that,
I'm actually not sure.
or
Maybe
Brad
it
Johnson?
Winky.
No, Brad Johnson was before that, wasn't
I'm gonna look it up. But that's my argument.
Oh, I'm not arguing Frank Beamer.
Yeah.
Because I think he should be there. I mean, maybe Gary Patterson ahead of him. Kyle Whittingham. We'll get into him in a minute. I could see him being bumped up, and Mike Gundy coming down.
Yeah.
But that's what we're going to get into, and that's where a lot of the discussion has came up, especially online. Is it's not really with the top 10 or top 12. It's 13 through 20. That's been the big issue with people.
The big issue has been
At 20.
But the 20's been the biggest issue.
And we're going to get into him in a minute. I mean, I understand where people are coming up from Harbaugh. We're going to get into him in a minute. But with Frank Beamer, just the continued success he had there at was Virginia Tech, right? I had Mike Vick.
Yeah.
Just that was a real fun team to watch too in the mid 2000s.
Oh yeah,
or early 2000s, I guess it would be. 01 to like 03 was Vick.
Yeah. Moving on to the next piece of the list, though. Gary Patterson. I don't really know that I would move him. I think he's deserving.
That's what he's done at TCU. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah. Mike Gundy. He's another one that I think I have to go back and look, but I feel like he was one of the ones that has never missed a postseason in his career as a head coach.
Right.
Which I think is impressive. He's had quite a few 10-win seasons.
Mm-hmm.
There was actually a year, I can't remember what season it was, but there was a year where he had a really good argument for being in the national championship. And I don't remember what year that was.
2013?
I think it might have actually.
Yeah,
I
think
think
he had
it might
Justin
have been.
Blackman at the time, and
He did.
had can't remember the quarterback's name now, but
was it Whedon? Or was
it
that
was Brandon Whedon?
Okay.
It was Brandon Whedon, who got drafted by the Browns. Of course, he was like 28 years old.
Yeah,
as a senior in high school.
he was
a senior in college.
Well, he went to the MLB. Or
right,
something.
I think he was in the minors in the MLB.
Yeah, and then he decided to go back and take on his,
use his eligibility.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
I agree.
But yeah, we are talking about Kyle Whittingham. Paul Johnson. Paul Johnson, I ain't gonna lie, I need to apologize to Paul Johnson. Paul Johnson's one I left off of my initial list when we did it individually.
I actually did have him on mine. I think I was the only one out of the four that had him on my list.
I think you may have been. And I missed. I definitely swung and missed on that one. Paul Johnson went to 3 ACC title games, won one of those, and did it during a time when Dabo Swinney and Clemson were becoming a dynasty.
Right.
He beat some team. He was one of. There were 3 teams that have. Was it a winning record, or I can't remember what the statistic was.
Did you send that to me?
But it was.
Did you send it to me yesterday?
I think so.
Okay, I'll look
it was
that up.
It was a Fox college football tweet, and it was something along the lines of. I think I actually tweeted it at you.
That may have been where I got to send it out.
But it was something along the lines of the top, or the 3 teams that have a winning record against Dabo Swinney or something like that. And it was Georgia Tech, South Carolina, and Florida State maybe was the third one. I think. I can't remember. And I don't think it was. It may not have been a winning record. It may have been like so many wins. Maybe even 5 wins or something.
I can't remember now.
Paul Johnson, Steve Spurrier, Jimbo Fisher. All 3 names are on this list, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
But Paul Johnson, he beat a DeAndre Hopkins Clemson team.
Mm-hmm. He did.
He beat a what's the other receiver they had that played for the Bills?
Benjamin. Oh no.
No, that's
Florida State.
Yeah. That name came to mind too, though. What was his name?
Georgia Tech.
No, he played at Clemson.
Plays at Clemson.
Yeah, I can't remember that guy's name. Anyway.
Oh wow.
It'll come to mind in a minute, I guess. But anyways, he beat some good teams. Is my point I'm making there. And then what year was it where it may have been the same year they won the conference? I'm assuming it probably was, obviously. But they went and played in the Orange Bowl against Mississippi State, and everyone still picked Mississippi State, and they drummed Mississippi State.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was the same year Mississippi State was ranked. At one time, they were ranked number 1 in the country. I believe. That's when they had Dak Prescott and
You're right.
that little running back. I can't think of his name. He's a little bowling ball. As a matter of fact, I think they called him Bowling Ball because he's just like short and stocky.
Right. teams with
say
a
it was-
win versus Clemson, and it was 5 wins. It was
Yep.
Florida State, it was South Carolina, and it was Georgia Tech.
Yeah, which is again Jimbo Fisher,
Yep.
who's at 8, Paul Johnson,
Paul Johnson.
17, and then Steve Spurrier, 18.
Right.
And I ain't gonna lie, Keith, it killed me to do that. Put Paul Johnson ahead of Steve Spurrier.
Well, and here's the thing about that list too is there's a team that has 2 wins against Clemson. Alabama.
Yeah,
Alabama made that list, but it was at 2 wins.
yeah. That's pretty remarkable. And
Right.
now,
It took me a while to find
granted, Paul Johnson, Steve Spurrier, Jimbo Fisher have all played Dabo Swinney a lot more than Nick Saban has.
Right.
But still, I know the numbers are kind of inflated when you look at it. It's kind of like a cherry pick statistic.
Right.
But regardless, they've got more wins against Dabo than Nick Saban. That's still impressive.
Well, I mean, they play in the conference with them, so
Yeah.
they have more of an opportunity. The only time
Yeah.
that Nick Saban gets a
Well,
chance
Spurrier-
to
yeah.
is going to be the national title or in the playoffs.
Right.
So,
And then Spurrier had the rivalry every year at the end of the season.
right.
But anyway, 19. I'm gonna let you take this one because that's your dude. David Cookle's your man. I'm not disagreeing with where he's at. Disagreeing with
I
him.
don't
being
have
top
my
20.
stats on me, but with David Cutcliffe, because we're doing the past 20 years, and Cutcliffe's been at Duke since, and I could be wrong, I might misquote this, I think it's 2010, or 2009 that he was at Duke. But you also can consider the time that he was at Ole Miss.
Yep.
There in the early 2000s. I think he had Eli Manning and a couple receivers there that was really good. Go ahead, a couple 10-win seasons at Ole Miss, and I think he's actually had 2 or 3 10-win seasons at Duke. I could be wrong about that. I could be misquoting. It may just be 1 and then 2 or 3 9-win seasons.
Yeah.
But with David Cutcliffe, and it's my argument, and it's one of the reasons I'm willing to hear an argument for James Franklin at 20, even as high as 19, or even above Spurrier for me. But he's doing it at Duke. Franklin did it at Vandy.
Right.
He had a couple. I think James Franklin had a couple 10-win seasons at Vandy, which is impressive. But David Cutcliffe has done it consistently at Duke, and Duke is a very hard school for an athlete to get into. Same thing with Vandy. So for me, for him to have sustained success at Duke, which I know he's got the Manning connection. He coached. He was the offensive coordinator when Peyton was at Tennessee.
Yeah.
The head coach for Eli at Ole Miss. And just to be honest, if he can pull him there, Lane Kiffin would be very wise to offer him the offensive coordinator job to get Arch Manning.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about that. I mean, if Lane Kiffin can get David Cutcliffe to Ole Miss, then he has a chance for Manning. And I think Ole Miss does have a chance for him. I know that's kind of getting off the rails, but that just shows you the Manning connection that Cutcliffe has.
Yeah. That's interesting. That's an interesting take. I've never thought of that.
Well, because Arch Manning is going to be a 5-star top recruit coming in. And everybody's going to say, well, it's either between Ohio State, Alabama, or Clemson.
Right.
But if Lane Kiffin can have the family connection at Ole Miss with Archie and Eli, and Peyton probably would have went to Ole Miss if Cooper had went there.
Right. Well, have been able to keep playing.
Right, that's what I mean. He wasn't able to keep playing.
Right.
Then Ole Miss has a chance, just with the Manning connection. But without it, I still think Ole Miss has a chance. And like I said, I'm getting off the rails. But for me, David Cutcliffe, he could be higher. He could be as high as 19 just because of where he's been at.
Right.
Which is Duke.
Yeah. That would be. I think it'd be a hard sell though to get Cutcliffe to leave a head coaching role to be an offensive coordinator.
The only reason that he might be able to is because of the Manning, and I don't see Arch Manning going to Duke. I just don't.
I wouldn't if I was him.
No, I wouldn't either.
But
being the
Daniel Jones went to Duke. I mean, it wouldn't be the first.
Right, but if you're Arch Manning,
yeah,
are you really going to pass up on Clemson and Dabo or
yeah.
a last final run with Nick Saban before his? And that's something we actually talked about off air was Nick Saban's contract extension, which puts him through 2028.
Gosh, yeah. That's
So
somewhat. Well, no, that's not. It is depressing.
it is depressing for everybody that's not an Alabama fan.
Yeah, because Alabama, they're just going to continue to be good.
Right.
They're going to.
And they have an outside chance to get Arch Manning. I say
Yeah.
outside, I mean they're in the running.
Right.
They're not Tennessee. They're not Ole Miss. They're not Duke.
Right.
They're not Penn State. They're not Michigan.
They're just. It's the
They're not
fact.
Texas.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you can name off a lot of great programs that, you know, typically would have a chance for a 5-star recruit like Arch, but they're not.
Yeah. And then the last one, the one that's getting all the flack, Jim Harbaugh.
Is Jim Harbaugh.
And
I
here's
see
my
the
thing.
argument for him. I see the argument against him.
That's what I was going to say. I see it both ways because just not long ago, when I was trying to make my pitch about Steve Spurrier, I was arguing against Harbaugh.
Right.
And
He was arguing that Spurrier should be ahead of Harbaugh.
oh, and I'll never disagree on that argument. Or I mean, I'll never sway from that argument. Steve Spurrier.
I'll hear the argument.
Steve Spurrier in a 20-year span has had more success than Harbaugh. I will continue to stick to my guns with that. But anyways, I can hear an argument both ways about Harbaugh being in or out of top 20. Now some of these names have been thrown out there. I kind of see Pat Fitzgerald.
Right.
I wouldn't knock flopping him.
Right.
Kirk Ferentz, I wouldn't knock flip flopping him.
James Franklin.
James Franklin. Well, I don't know. The fact that he had 2 9-win seasons at Vandy is impressive. That might actually be enough to flip flop him.
Right.
But Harbaugh won an Orange Bowl at Stanford. I mean,
Right.
Stanford.
I
now,
agree.
granted, Stanford's not in as tough of a conference as Vandy, and they're not as bad as Vandy.
Right. And it's a harder school to get into.
Stanford's right there. Well, I mean, academically, they're
I'm
very.
not saying that they're Tennessee school for the deaf.
Yeah.
But when you compare, I would put like Vandy at the top, right there with Duke, and then Stanford is like second tier.
I can't say yay or nay because I
Okay.
honestly don't know.
Okay.
Are we talking about just like difficulty to get into academically? Is that what we're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't
For an
know yay
athlete.
or nay. I think they're both equally as tough.
Right.
I think the difference is though there's more rich history with Stanford, even athletically,
Oh, I
than
agree.
there is with
Which makes
Vanderbilt.
what makes Franklin what Franklin did at Vandy.
I agree.
More-
I'm not
Right.
disagreeing that, but I mean one credit to the Stanford thing. I guess credit to James Franklin is who's Vanderbilt's John Elway.
Jay Cutler.
Oh, that's actually a bad one. Let's not use that.
Well, I mean,
that's
the
the
closest comparison that you can have.
That is the closest comparison. I can't think of another.
Right.
Aaron Rodgers' old brother played there, Jordan Rodgers, but
Jordan
he
Rodgers,
wasn't.
but he wasn't Jay Cutler.
No, he wasn't Jay Cutler.
Jay Cutler beat Tennessee in Neyland.
Jay Cutler was.
Which I mean, that's before Franklin's time. I'm just saying that's my argument. For
Actually, James Franklin beat Tennessee in Neyland.
he did, but it was different. Different years. But
I think he did it. I could misquote this, but I think he did it with a Maryville talent. Did he do that with Patton Robinette? Was that who the quarterback was when he beat Tennessee?
I think so, but I could be wrong.
I think it was Patton.
I think so, but I could be wrong.
But yeah,
Actually, Franklin never had a 10-win season at Vandy.
yeah, I think he just had 9.
He had 2 9-win seasons,
Yeah,
and then he got the job at Penn State
yeah.
in 2014. And then
I
he
feel like
has
if you compare,
3 11-win seasons there.
but see, I feel like if you compare the, and let me pull up Harbaugh.
Yeah.
I feel like
We'll
if you
do the
compare
comparison.
Harbaugh and Franklin with Michigan and Penn State, they're not really that far off. They're not too different.
No. I agree. How many 10-win seasons? 10
That's
wins
what I
or
was
more.
about to say. He's had 3 10-win seasons and 1 9-win season. What's Franklin had?
Franklin's got 3 11-win seasons and 1 9-win season.
So see, maybe. Well, what's his bowl record?
At Penn State,
Yeah,
1, 2, 3, 3-3.
3-3. Okay. Well, his bowl record is definitely better than Harbaugh's.
Right.
Harbaugh at Michigan is 1-4.
Right, and that's what what was his bowl wins at Stanford.
He had 1 win. He'd been to 2. He went 1-1 at Stanford in the postseason.
And Franklin was 2-1 at Vandy.
See, so I mean, I'm not going to discredit. I'm not going to disagree.
He got the 3, which I mean they're not big bowls, but he still got Vandy to a bowl game, 3 bowl games, and won 2 of them.
Right.
So I can see.
Franklin's
argument.
I can. The thing about Harbaugh, though, and I don't know,
I think he gets too much flack for not being able to beat Ohio State. I think he gets too much flack for it.
Well, I mean, I get Michigan fans.
I agree. I agree that they want to beat Ohio State.
Yeah.
But when they went from Tressel to Meyer and now today, it's hard to.
Well, see, and that's my thing is when everybody's commenting, oh well, Harbaugh shouldn't be in the top 20 because he can't beat Ohio State. He can't win big ball games. Okay, Ohio State is the big ball game we're talking about.
Right.
Now, granted, his bowl record has not been great, but Ohio State's the game we're talking about.
Right.
Okay. Give me another coach that, and this makes me wonder if they are going to fire him. Give me another coach that you can actually get to Michigan that can beat Ryan Day at Ohio State.
There's 2.
Who?
Nick Saban and Dabo.
No, but I said that you can get to come to Michigan.
Oh,
Nick Saban's not leaving.
No.
Dabo's not leaving.
No.
Give me a coach give me a name that you can actually persuade and convince to take the money, come to Michigan.
Right.
I mean, they're going to open the checkbook regardless.
Oh yeah.
But you can't. There is nobody.
There is nobody. Nothing I can think of offhand.
Some of the coaches that I can think of that would be good hires at any program. I think of like Matt Campbell.
Right.
And
we've actually talked about that on some of our other episodes. That
if
Matt Campbell is again on the outside looking in on a national championship playoff berth, if he can't get them over the hump because he does have Oklahoma there in conference. If he's on the outside looking in, he may be looking to go somewhere else.
Right.
And Michigan would be the biggest program. I would think that he would look at and say, I can succeed there.
Yeah. But again, though, how different is that from, what does he do differently? How is he going to do anything different?
What I mean by that is not that he's going to do anything different. It's he has more facilities. He has a better opportunity.
Right, I agree.
To get better recruits as compared to Iowa State.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I don't see.
But I agree with your argument and I see exactly what you're saying is, we've got Jim Harbaugh. Yes, he has a hard time or even he can't beat Ohio State, but who are you going to get in that can? And It's the same thing that, as Tennessee fans, we've seen for the last 10 years.
Right.
We're trying to play the uphill battle with Alabama, who we have to play every year.
Yep.
And with Nick Saban, and we're just going through coaches. And, I'm telling Michigan fans, you don't want to do that. Because it is a very slippery slope that you go into. You go from, I take out the COVID year, but what did he do in 2019? Harbaugh.
9-4.
As a Tennessee fan, I would take 9-4 every day.
I would take 9-4.
I would take 9-4.
Yeah, they finished in the top 25. They lost the Citrus Bowl, but
right.
Here's my thing.
Do you really want the dumpster fire Tennessee's in?
Really?
That's what I'm comparing it to.
He got there in 2015. Okay. Prior to that, you had. I'm gonna try to name these. I know you had Brady Hoke.
Right.
You had Rich Rodriguez.
Yes.
Which was
a dumpster fire in itself.
Both were dumpster fires. I'm trying to think of another coach that was. I feel like was there somebody between Brady Hoke and Harbaugh, or was Harbaugh the replacement for Brady Hoke?
What year was Harbaugh hired?
2015.
Okay. Let's do this. Let's do Michigan.
But my point is, how many 10-win seasons did Michigan have before Harbaugh got there? Because you have, in the short amount of time he's been there, Michigan fans have got to see 3 10-win seasons, a 9-4 season, and an 8-5 season.
Right.
8-5, is mediocre, but it's a whole lot better than 7-6 or 6-7 or whatever, insert losing season here. It's a lot
or
better.
losing to Georgia State at home.
Gosh.
They went from Lloyd Carr from 95 to 2007, hired Rich Rod in 08 to 2010. He went 35-15. They went to Brady Hoke in 2011 to 2014. He went 51-31. And then they hired Jim Harbaugh in 2015, and he is 70-49.
Okay, so there wasn't anybody between Hoke and Harbaugh. For some reason, I thought that there was.
Like 70-49 doesn't sound right, but anyways.
Actually, I have it right here. He's 49-22 at Michigan.
So 49 was the wins.
Yeah, that's his wins. Yeah, at Michigan. But
games coached. That was what I was looking at.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, who do you hire? Who are you going to actually get to come to Michigan? Because I don't.
Right.
And here's the thing: not only do you need a coach to come to Michigan, you can go offer any coach you want to.
Right.
But you're needing a coach that can do what Harbaugh did plus.
Right.
You want a coach that can still get 10 wins.
Right.
And can get over the hump of beating Ohio State.
Right.
I don't know how many coaches are out there that do that. They can
Right.
do that. Now, there are a couple coaches that are in that conference that I think could do it. Do they leave where they're at? The only one that comes to mind that would leave is Brett Bielema.
That was the name that I was going to say, Brett Bielema, but he is year one at Illinois.
But if you think about, I mean, Kirk Ferentz has a better win-loss record against Ohio State than Harbaugh. He beat Ohio State once, I think, but still. Is he leaving Iowa? He's at Iowa. He's not leaving. He's been there forever. No, he's made a home there.
No.
Pat Fitzgerald, he played at Northwestern. He's an alumni. He's had success at Northwestern. Does he leave for Ohio State?
So.
Or not for Ohio State, but Michigan?
I don't think
Probably
so.
not.
I don't think so.
Have
you seen Michigan's facilities?
I have not.
Oh, my gosh. It is. It's amazing. The facilities at Michigan are amazing.
It doesn't surprise me. I mean, it's a blue blood.
Right.
But I feel like they're in the same boat as Tennessee. Like
right.
It's kind of like, well, how bad do you want to be good?
Well, how bad are you willing to roll the dice?
Yeah.
Because, we talked about Matt Campbell. Well, if you roll the dice and say, hey, we're getting Matt Campbell, and he doesn't come, then you're going down the line going, okay, who can we get?
Yep.
You're not going to pull a Jimbo Fisher from Texas A&M, I don't think.
You're not going to pull a Jimbo. You're not going to pull. There's a lot of coaches at these other programs that Lincoln Riley's not leaving Oklahoma.
No.
Dabo we mentioned is not leaving.
No.
Kirby Smart is not leaving.
Kirby Smart's not leaving Georgia.
I mean,
Dan Mullen's not leaving Florida.
No, you're kind of. I mean, Brian Kelly, he's not leaving Notre Dame.
No.
You're out of. You're out of.
You're starting to go from not only a tier 1 available coach to tier 2. Well, nobody's there. Tier 3, and then you're in the same boat Tennessee is of going. Okay, well, let's go hire Butch Jones.
Yeah, or then you're looking at hopefully hiring a knockout hire from one of these group of fives that you hope is going to pan out.
It's going to be a.
You're looking at like a
offensive
or something.
Well, I mean, even an offensive or defensive coordinator is what you're really looking at.
Or even yeah.
And like Tennessee with Jeremy Pruitt, it was a mold of Nick Saban, but it didn't work out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It was.
Well, if that was the mold of Nick Saban, then somebody put a hole in that mold and lift it all up.
Right.
Because it was.
Let's rearrange and let's redo the mold because.
Yeah.
But with
I think though the problem with Pruitt, not to get off the rails here, but I think Pruitt just didn't have enough. Like he needed more time. I don't mean more time as a head coach. I'm not saying Tennessee need to give him more time. I'm saying I think he needed more time to grow as a coordinator and learn under a head coach before he branched out to become a head coach. Or he needed to step out on a limb as a group of five.
Right. That was going to be my argument because he had been molded. He was under Jimbo at Florida State. He was under Nick Saban at Alabama. He had learned what I would feel is enough to be a head coach. Mm-hmm. But I think that a Power 5 was a little too big of a jump.
Yeah.
And even if you say, it's Power 5, but you go to like a Northwestern or a lower tier, even within the group of 5.
A place where football is not
Power 5.
The main focus.
Exactly. You need to go to a group of 5 and be a head coach for at least 2 or 3 years and really get your bearings and figure it out and then jump to Power 5.
See, and I think that's what Matt Campbell's doing. I think Matt Campbell has seen other coaches.
Right.
doing stuff like that. Like he's seen, Brett Bielema making the jump to Arkansas, Butch Jones. I feel like he's seen all this,
Right.
and he's sitting back thinking, okay, I'm gonna wait and buy my time, get all my ducks in a row,
Right.
because nobody cared about Iowa State football.
Right.
Iowa State football is not important.
No.
Now it is.
Well, it
now
is
it's
now.
it's a big deal now.
Well, and part of that too is when he came into Iowa State, Lincoln Riley was just getting started at Oklahoma, which he took over from Bob Stoops and he just kept that place rolling.
Right.
But the big thing with Campbell was Texas was down. TCU is not great.
Mm-hmm.
Baylor was okay, but Baylor just lost Matt Rhule to the Carolina Panthers last year. So they're still finding another head coach. So he stepped into a really good situation with got his system in, got it rolling,
Right.
And then he got it to where it's at right now. But I wonder where the ceiling is for him there.
Right.
And going back to our list, we
talked
mentioned
about
Lincoln
too,
Riley.
Yeah.
I mean to cut you off.
No,
but,
you're good.
with our list, people are, Lincoln Riley, Kirby Smart. These guys have not been head coaches for nowhere near as long as some of these other guys have been. We talk about Jim Harbaugh, who was at Stanford in 2009, 2010, in that range. James Franklin, even at Vandy, in the like the same time frame. These guys have been around a lot longer. Now, if we make this list again here in 5 or 10 years, and say from 2010 to 2030, Lincoln Riley will definitely be in there. Kirby Smart will definitely be in there. I'm hoping Josh Heupel will be in there. But getting off the rails there. But these other guys that people are, fingers crossed there. But some of these other guys that have just gotten started, you can't include those over the past 20 years. I mean, it's just not fair to these other coaches that have not only been around that long but had success.
Yeah, I agree. Honestly, looking at the list, there's actually the last 4 or 5 picks. There's a lot of coaches that you could consider. Now, again, once you take out the names, like you just said, the ones that are throwing out Dan Mullen and all those guys,
right? They're great coaches, but they've not been around long enough.
Absolutely, great coaches. And there were some that had mentioned like Bobby Bowden and guys like that. Bobby Bowden is he's an all-time coach.
Absolutely.
But Bobby Bowden quit coaching in 2008.
Right.
So he only had 8 seasons, and at that point he was kind of like fading out.
He was on his last,
Yeah, it wasn't great. It wasn't great football.
No.
So he only had 8 seasons into this 20-year time frame we're talking about.
If you do a 20-year time frame from 90 to 2010, he's in there.
Oh yeah. Oh
absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Spurrier, if you include the 90s.
Spurrier's in there. Keith Spurrier is already in there.
I know, but what I'm saying is, if you include the 90s, Spurrier jumps from we've got him at 18, and arguably could be at
he's 18.
Arguably at 19 or 20, but he jumps from the low range of this into the top 10.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah.
So.
But I was hoping we get some people to talk about this. I'm enjoying hearing all the comments and.
Facebook has absolutely blown up with this. We don't have a great range right now, but
2 other names that got threw out that I think are great names. Again, you can insert somebody else for Jim Harbaugh, but the thing is, anybody you put in there, it's just like when you do the playoff, like a tournament bracket or playoffs or whatever. The 4th spot is always going to be criticized. The last spot. You're always going to have people that are going to say, well, this name should be in there, or this team should be in there over this team.
Right.
But Mark D'Antonio and Bill Snyder. That is 2 good names that have good arguments.
Ooh,
Bill Snyder
I hadn't even
really.
thought about Bill Snyder.
But the thing is, if you put Bill Snyder at 20, well, then you got people saying Bill Snyder, Mark D'Antonio.
Right.
All these other names, Kirk Ferentz.
One of the funniest comments that I had seen today that came out of this was it was like, Jim Harbaugh shouldn't be at 20, and I'm a Michigan fan. I thought that was funny. I thought that was actually kind of funny.
And I think that's the thing, though, with Michigan fans. I think that we had, just like Tennessee fans, Tennessee fans don't want to admit it because they hated that time period. But Butch Jones is the best coach that we've had Tennessee since Fulmer. He is.
Oh, without a doubt.
He's the best coach we've had since Fulmer.
Kiffin was here 1 year, and he had success, but he was here 1 year.
Yeah, 1 year.
And then the Dooley years were
terrible.
I mean, it was dark days at Dooley.
The fact that
Jones comes in and actually revives the program, has us ranked, end up not working out for him, but you go from him to Pruitt, and Pruitt, he had his wins. He beat an Auburn team in Jordan O'Hare, but he also lost to Georgia State at home.
The win against Auburn at Jordan Hare and the win over Kentucky at home when they were ranked.
I was actually at that game.
Both games, I think, got negated whenever you lost back-to-back at home to Georgia State and BYU. BYU, if we hadn't lost to Georgia State, if we had beat Georgia State and lost to BYU, I'd have been like, okay, whatever. That quarterback's about to be a number 2 draft pick in the NFL, whatever. But no, you lost to BYU the week after you lost to Georgia State.
Right.
There is no way you should have lost to BYU at that point.
I agree.
You lose to Georgia State, then you go, okay, I don't care who we're about to play this week. This is about to be the best Tennessee team you ever seen take the field. Right. And they weren't. They weren't.
Right.
So I think that Michigan fans are overly critical, kind of like Tennessee fans in that instance.
Mm-hmm.
Tennessee fans, the way they would knock Butch or Pruitt or whatever.
And I understand
think that they're that way. They're saying, oh, Harbaugh's the worst coach we've ever had. No, he's not.
No, I mean,
Harbaugh's the best coach y'all have had
since Lloyd Carr.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same time frame.
Yes,
it's the same time frame.
And Michigan fans, hard pill to swallow, but it's the truth.
Well, I mean, and when you compare the two fan bases, I mean, I would argue that Jim Harbaugh has been the best coach compared to any Tennessee coach. Since Fulmer, yes.
Yeah, he's been. We've talked about Harbaugh and Butch are very comparable, but I do think Harbaugh has had a better stint at Michigan than what Butch had at UT.
I agree.
So I'll give you that.
And that's what I'm saying is, and even with Pruitt, Tennessee fans are going, like you just said, we lost to Georgia State, and then we turn around and lose to BYU. That doesn't happen under Harbaugh.
No. I think a lot of Pruitt's problem was just being very stubborn in what he was doing.
Right.
And I understand that. I mean,
to a degree.
Coach, to a degree, as a coach, you need to own your identity and excel at it.
I agree.
But when stuff's not working, that's also your job to look at that and to adapt.
Exactly.
I don't feel like he was ever looking to adapt.
No, I don't think so.
It was kind of like my way or no way.
Right.
And it didn't work.
Right. Right. And the thing with Saban is, Saban is that way.
But it works.
Well, Saban also surrounds himself with unbelievable talent as far as his coaches go.
Yes.
I think going into last year, he had Steve Sarkisian as his offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
You're fine. Steve Sarkisian as offensive coordinator. He had Butch Jones as an analyst. He had Charlie Strong on his staff.
Yeah.
In some capacity. Pruitt didn't have that.
Mm-mm.
And I understand Harbaugh don't have that either, but that's the difference in comparing the two.
Mm-hmm.
When you compare whoever, with the exception of Dabo or Urban Meyer or Ryan Day, the staff does not compare to what Nick Saban has built.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I agree completely.
So, but that's my argument on as far as that goes.
So, we'll go ahead and jump into
our 5 and 5.
Yeah.
Okay. So our 5 and 5 this week is our top 5 players that's played in the SEC in the past 10 years, since 2010. So our best 5 players in 5 minutes from the SEC in 2010. And when I made my list, I couldn't believe how quarterback heavy it was, which I guess it's just
really?
Oh yeah.
Mine is not quarterback heavy.
Oh, mine.
So I've missed somebody.
4 out of 5 are quarterbacks.
Oh, I've missed somebody. Actually, as I'm sitting here looking at my list, I know of a name that I missed that I'm going to get flack for.
Oh, I know you are. So I'm sitting here looking at my list. I'm like, how do you not have this guy? And I know who it is.
I'm sure. I think I know who it is. Anyways, we'll go ahead and kick it off.
My number 5 is Cam Newton.
5?
5 is Cam Newton.
Five.
As 5. 5.
My brain can't.
5.
Cam Newton is
Cam
number
Newton is 5. 5.
I can't wait to hear who number 1 is. Okay, but all right. Cam Newton's number 5. Anything else you want to say?
I mean, he had the time at Florida. And the issue
I
is,
do think at Florida, but
well, I mean, I was 08, spent time at JUCO, came back and then played. I think it was just one season at Auburn.
he did. But that was a crazy good season.
It was a crazy. I'm not arguing that.
Like,
and won the
yeah.
Heisman, and won the national championship. All that's great. But when I look at my other guys on my list, there's one other guy that I have the argument for.
I may have done that when I put mine together. I may have done it a little differently, which I kind of like that we do ours differently because it gives different stuff to talk about. I did mine not solely on career stats. I did mine based my five. I chose the 5 guys that just changed the game.
Right.
That absolutely were like if it had been totally different.
Right.
So that's the way I did mine. My number 5 was Derrick Henry.
Okay.
Derrick Henry.
That's the only quarterback that's not on my list.
That
not player.
Running back. Only player that's not quarterback.
Yeah.
Derrick Henry, golly, is a physical freak.
Oh my gosh.
Titans fan here. Glad to have him. But anyways, Derrick Henry, just that last year he had when they went and they won the title. Dude, he was unbelievable. He was unbelievable.
Unreal.
He was massive. I mean, he was like 6'3", 260. I think 250, 260, and can move.
And yeah,
like he outruns
what I call separation
DBs.
speed.
Yes,
separation speed.
And meets you at the line of scrimmage.
Right.
Just unbelievable.
Right.
But that's my number 5.
Okay. My number 4 is Derrick Henry.
That's
so that's why I didn't. But anyways, go ahead with
my number 4 is the Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Dude, that guy. Again, we talked about that LSU team that he was on was good, but he just he added another element. Like if there was ever one player that I think back to this. You remember back at Michigan, ironically enough, a few years ago when they had Jabril Peppers. And he did everything.
Yeah, he wasn't a position player. He was an athlete.
Yes, he did everything. Right. Like at one point they had him taking snaps. I mean, he was the guy.
Right.
Tyrann Mathieu was that for LSU.
Right.
Like he was the guy. Like he was the one player, and it showed that 2012 when he wasn't able to be there. I can't remember what happened that he ended up not playing.
Right.
It showed that was not the same team that they were in 2010 and 2011 with him.
And Tyrann Mathieu is a player that you can line him at safety, which he plays. They could line him up at corner if they needed to. They could walk him down in the box and play an extra linebacker cover 3. He played almost every position on the defensive side of the ball.
And I mean, he's still. And I mean, how many players do you see sit out an entire year of college football and then go to the NFL and become the player that he's been?
Absolutely,
I
agree.
He's the leader of that Chiefs defense.
Absolutely. I agree. All right, so moving to my number 3 is Tua.
Wow.
3 is Tua.
Wow.
3 is Tua.
Okay. Tua's above Cam. You must have you went career, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I went by just career.
Well, okay, if you go by career, I get that.
This is the time he had there at Alabama, and if he doesn't have any of the injury issues that he has, he probably is higher just because he's able to, put more stats up. But he did have the injuries, but
Sorry, go ahead.
There's the one play that sticks out to me from Tua is the national championship where he pump fakes, looks off the safety, and throws the touchdown to Devontae Smith. That was just, just Tua. And I think it's cool though when he went to the Dolphins. I wonder why he made a change from 13 to 1. I was like, why is he changing up? And then I realized that he couldn't wear 13 for the Dolphins. Dan Marino.
Oh yeah. I didn't even think about that. Honestly, I forgot all about that. Dan Marino been wearing 13. The thing Tua is the best quarterback Alabama's ever had.
Yes. And that's including A.J. McCarron.
And A.J. McCarron had a great career at Alabama.
Absolutely. I feel like he should have won the Heisman his senior year, but that's just what
But I don't feel like Alabama really needs a quarterback. I mean, you look at the championship teams that they've had. I mean, they won one with Greg McElroy. They won one. Yeah, Blake Sims wasn't great.
Right.
But they won one with Greg McElroy, who wasn't terrible, but he wasn't as good as A.J. McCarron or Tua. They won one with Jake Coker, and he wasn't very good.
Right.
Yeah, he was just kind of a game manager. Now Mac Jones was actually looked pretty good. Let's see what happens. Yeah, he
was a legit quarterback, but at the same time, I'm not putting Mac Jones above Tua or
I'm not
McCarron.
Either. But I'm just saying, I don't know, and maybe that's just me being overly critical. It probably is.
Well, it's just 1 year too.
Yeah.
And and he was surrounded by Waddle and Smith and I can't think of the other receiver's name, and he had Najee Harris in the backfield and a great offensive line, all that bunch of stuff. But and like you said, we'll see what he does in the pros. But when I compare AJ McCarron and Tua, Mac Jones is a third.
So my number 3, and I can't believe you didn't put this guy on your list. Obviously not, because you said 4 of you guys are quarterbacks, right?
Right.
Cannot believe this guy's not on your list.
Who is it?
Jadeveon Clowney.
Oh man, I didn't even think
Jadeveon Clowney was the
I agree. I don't know how he didn't make my list.
That dude was unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable. I mean, he was college football for a couple of years that he was at. Those last 2 years he was at South Carolina. He was it, man.
Right.
Like he was their entire team.
Right. We talk about a defensive lineman controlling a game. I mean, there's only 2 in the past. 10, 15 years that you can really think of off the top of my head.
Comes off to my head is Ndamukong Suh.
And then you had Jadeveon Clowney.
Yeah.
And then I guess the Bosa brothers and Chase Young would be in that category.
Yeah.
But even like a Chase Young or the Bosas, I don't put them in the same category as I would as Jadeveon Clowney in college.
Right. People talk about Chase Young, about how he changed the game. I don't feel like he changed the game as much as Jadeveon Clowney did.
Right.
Jadeveon Clowney
would shut down the side of the field.
Yes. He would
absolutely
he would change the entire offensive coordinator's game plan because you couldn't do anything to his side of the field.
Right.
Nothing.
Right.
But yeah, that's my number 3.
Yeah, that's a great one. My number 2 is Joe Burrow.
That's the name that I left off.
I knew it.
As soon as I looked at it, I was like, I forgot a name, and yeah.
Right. And Joe Burrow, I probably should have had him at 3 and Tua at 2 just for career. But Joe Burrow comes in from Ohio State and just absolutely dominates. And if you're an LSU fan, it was a magical season because he led a team, which I think they had Justin Jefferson and a couple other real good playmakers. But without, and it's the same thing with we talk about Tyrann Mathieu. If LSU doesn't have Joe Burrow, I don't even think that they're in the title discussion.
I'd agree with that. I think the quarterback was a big factor, but I also think Joe Brady played a big role in that. Now, granted, you got to have a quarterback back there that can make the throws and make the decisions.
Right.
But my argument there, though, will be that Cam Newton was more of a game. I feel like Cam Newton completely changed the game more than Joe Burrow. But that's just my opinion.
Right.
And I would love to hear someone else's opinion on that. But I'm not disagreeing that Joe Burrow isn't top 5. I think Joe Burrow. Again, I'm going by game changer. I think Joe Burrow was more of a game changer than Tua, because I think that here's my thing. I think that Joe Burrow. I'm trying to think where I was going with that. Joe Burrow
benefited better from Brady. Is that what you were going to say?
No, no, that's gonna be the opposite. I was going to say that I think Joe Burrow was exactly what Brady needed. I think Joe Burrow is a good player regardless of where he goes. And which now I mean, it's not to say that Tua is not.
Right.
But, people talk about the receivers that Joe Burrow had. I think Tua had more weapons than Joe Burrow did.
I would agree because I think Tua had Ruggs and Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah, he did.
And Devontae Smith and Waddle and Mechie. Mechie is the receiver that I missed earlier.
You also got Najee Harris, and then was Damian Harris there his first year? Yes. I thought so. Burrow had Jamar Chase and Jordan Jefferson. Outside of that, those receivers made good plays.
He had Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Yeah, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but you're trying to tell me that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is better than either one of the Harrises? Because I don't think so. I don't think so.
I would say it's comparable. I'm not saying he's better. I'm just saying it's comparable.
I think that Burrow had a better resume. I think that he went into Texas and beat Texas.
Right.
Tua didn't have a game like that. But that's just my thing. I think that you could argue that Burrow is the better quarterback. Obviously, I'm higher anyway.
Right.
But I'm just saying, to support that argument, Burrow is the better.
Right.
I think had the better.
I think he's a better quarterback.
I think so too. I think he's a better quarterback. That's all I got to say on that.
But you're splitting hairs too as well. You talk about Tua and Joe Burrow. You obviously have 2 great quarterbacks.
Yeah, they are. They are.
So,
so my number 2 is one of the best quarterbacks
Oh,
I've ever
it's
watched
probably my
play.
number one.
It probably is your number one, but anyways, Johnny Manziel.
Yeah, that's my number one.
Johnny Manziel, man, was unreal.
electric.
Yes.
Electric.
That's
That's the
another
only
dude
way.
that A&M. They had Mike Evans.
Had Mike Evans, and they had.
I can't remember that other receiver's name. I can
Can't
see
either.
him, but I can't think of his name.
I can't either.
But they.
I kept going to Oklahoma players. I was like Mark Andrews, Sterling Shepard, but it wasn't either one of those guys.
But A&M goes into Tuscaloosa and beats Alabama. And
That was a magical game too.
Yes.
Actually, I think he beat them the next year too when they were at home.
I can't remember if they won that or if they lost. I can't remember. It was a great game though. It was a high-scoring game.
Right.
I remember watching that one too. But the one in Alabama was the one where he throws the ball, it gets deflected back at him, he turns, catches it, and then rolls out and then catches the receiver. And I can see the guy right now. That's the guy I'm thinking. Was it Swope? Was that his name? Or am I thinking of I might be thinking of a different receiver.
I don't remember.
Else. Anyways.
What year was that? And I'll look it up. But that's going to bother me.
11 or 12. I think it might have been 12 maybe.
Okay.
Maybe 12. But anyways, hits the receiver in the back of the end zone for a touchdown. After the ball, actually no, the ball may not got tipped. He may have. Did he get smacked off the?
I think he was in like kind of in a scrum.
Yeah.
And was trying to wrestle free. The ball popped out.
Maybe that's what it was.
And he kind of turned around, caught it, rolled out, and
yeah, crazy highlight.
Right.
But so that's my number 2, and that was your number 1, right? So I guess we'll go ahead and move on to my number 1. My number 1, I don't know how he's not a number 1 for anybody. Dude, Cam Newton, man. Cam Newton. Tell me, name another.
Darrell Walker, number 11.
No, that's not the guy I'm thinking of. I thought he was number
Kendrick
20.
McBeal.
No, I thought he was like 22 or something like that. I thought his number was like 20 number. I don't know. I thought it was Ryan Swope, but I think I might be confusing it with another receiver from another team. Possibly. I don't know.
I don't see him.
Anyway, Cam Newton, name another quarterback that is 6'5", 245
the physical
pounds.
attributes for him are crazy, man.
But he led the SEC, and if I'm not mistaken, I think he still owns the record for most rushing yards as a quarterback for a quarterback. But he also tore it up through the air too.
Mm-hmm.
Like he had gaudy numbers in both statistics, passing and rushing.
Right.
And if we're talking about a player changing the entire complexion of a team. 25. That's it. Ryan Swope. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Cam Newton, if he's not at Auburn in 2010, they don't win the national title.
They don't win the national championship.
No, they don't.
I
don't even know if they make it.
I don't think so.
But yeah, so Cam Newton.
I don't think they get by Alabama in the Iron Bowl.
And could you imagine if Cam Newton had stayed at Florida?
Oh my gosh.
Could you imagine?
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's unbelievable that he was right behind Tebow.
Yep.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah,
but yeah, so that's my number 1.
All right, guys, that's it for us. Make sure that if you're on Facebook or Twitter, guys, go follow us. Let us know what you think. If you guys have anything that you want us to discuss, you can. If you're watching on YouTube, guys, leave us a comment. Make sure you like and subscribe. And if you are listen to this on Apple Podcast or Spotify or wherever you get your podcast from, guys, make sure that you subscribe and leave us a rating, guys. It really helps out the show. Appreciate it, guys. See ya.